Emily's face as she rushed down the dimly lit street, her thin coat barely enough to shield her from the cold. Her breath came in sharp bursts, visible in the freezing air, as she clutched the worn strap of her bag. She wasn't running from danger but from despair, a growing void of unpaid bills and empty cupboards. The sight of a frail figure huddled against a lamppost brought her steps to a halt. The man was barely a shadow against the snow-dusted sidewalk, his head bowed and hands trembling as he tried to shield himself from the relentless wind. Emily's first instinct was to keep walking. Her problems were big enough without taking on someone else's. But something about him made her stop. She glanced at the crumpled $20 bill in her pocket, the last of her money meant to stretch through the week. Her heart hammered as she wrestled with the decision. Finally, she approached him. "Hey, you okay?" she asked softly, kneeling to meet his gaze. The man looked up, his eyes red-rimmed but piercing. "Just cold. But I'll manage," he mumbled, though the quiver in his voice said otherwise. Without giving herself time to reconsider, Emily pressed the $20 into his hand. "Get something warm to eat," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. The man stared at the money, his mouth opening as if to protest, but no words came out. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice breaking. Emily nodded and walked away, her pace quickening as she fought the sting of tears. She told herself it was no big deal, just money. But deep down, she wondered if she'd made a mistake. The next morning, she woke up to the bitter chill of her tiny apartment. Wrapping herself in a blanket, Emily shuffled to the kitchen, her stomach rumbling. There wasn't much left. A stale piece of bread and a near-empty jar of peanut butter. As she debated whether to eat or save it, a knock at her door startled her. She opened it cautiously to find a plain white envelope lying on the mat. No name, no markings, just an envelope. Frowning, she picked it up and opened it. Inside was a note written in elegant handwriting. "Your kindness didn't go unnoticed. Go to the Rosewood Cafe on 3rd Street today. Your life is about to change." Emily's heart raced. Was this a prank? A scam? Her thoughts immediately jumped to the old man. But how could he have orchestrated something like this? Curiosity warred with suspicion, but in the end, curiosity won. The Rosewood Cafe was a warm, inviting haven nestled on a bustling street. Emily hadn't been there in years, not since her financial troubles began. As she stepped inside, the scent of freshly baked pastries and brewed coffee enveloped her. She stood awkwardly near the counter, unsure of what to do, when the barista smiled and called her name. "Emily, this is for you." She blinked in surprise as he handed her a steaming cup of coffee and a plate with a flaky croissant. "Who?" she started, but he cut her off. "It's from a friend," he said with a knowing smile. Emily sat at a corner table, savoring the rare treat while her mind raced. Who could have done this? She was halfway through the coffee when a man approached her table. He was sharply dressed, with a confident yet kind demeanor. "Emily?" he asked, his voice warm but firm. "Yes," she replied, wary. The man pulled out a chair and sat down, folding his hands on the table. "My name's Daniel. I saw what you did last night." Her stomach tightened. "The man on the street?" He nodded. "You gave him your last $20, didn't you?" Emily's eyes narrowed. "How do you know that?" "I have my ways," Daniel said, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Let's just say I make it my business to notice acts of kindness." Her suspicion deepened, but Daniel's sincerity was disarming. "Why does it matter to you?" "Because kindness like yours is rare," he said, his gaze steady. "And I believe it deserves to be rewarded." Daniel slid an envelope across the table. "Inside is an opportunity. Not a handout, but a chance to rebuild your life. Take it and you won't regret it." Emily hesitated, her fingers trembling as she opened the envelope. Inside was an offer, a job at a company Daniel owned, along with a stipend to help her get back on her feet. Her throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone once did the same for me," Daniel said simply. "And I've made it my mission to pay it forward." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she realized this wasn't a scam or a cruel joke. It was real. Over the following months, Emily's life transformed. The job provided stability she hadn't felt in years, and the kindness she'd shown that freezing night seemed to ripple outward. She began helping others whenever she could. A meal for a struggling neighbor, a coat for someone on the street, always remembering the power of a single, selfless act. One evening, as she walked past the spot where she'd met the old man, she paused. He was gone, but his memory remained. Emily smiled, knowing that moment had set everything in motion. Sometimes the smallest gestures have the most profound impact. And for Emily, that cold winter night marked the beginning of a brighter, warmer future. As Emily stood by the lamppost where it all began, memories of that cold night flooded back. She thought about how much her life had changed since then, how one moment of compassion had opened doors she never imagined existed. She took a deep breath, letting the chilly air fill her lungs, and whispered to herself, "I'll never forget this." Her life wasn't perfect, but it was hers to rebuild. Her job with Daniel's company gave her not just a steady paycheck, but a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She started as a junior assistant, handling small tasks and learning the ropes, but Daniel saw potential in her. "Emily," he said one day, standing at her desk, "you've got a sharp mind. I want you to lead this new project." She nearly dropped her pen. "Me? Are you sure?" "Absolutely," he said with a reassuring smile. "You've earned this." It was a challenging role, managing a team, meeting deadlines, and pitching ideas to clients. But Emily poured herself into the work, drawing strength from the belief Daniel had in her. Slowly but surely, her confidence grew. Her newfound stability allowed her to start dreaming again. She moved into a modest but cozy apartment, where she spent evenings decorating the walls with photos and paintings she'd picked up from thrift stores. It wasn't luxurious, but it was a home. A real home where she felt safe and at peace. But she never forgot the struggles she'd faced. Every time she saw someone in need, she was reminded of the old man on the corner and the $20 bill that had started it all. One evening, Emily decided to visit a local shelter. She'd been setting aside a small portion of her paycheck each month. Not much, but enough to buy some supplies. Blankets, gloves, and canned food. As she handed out the items, she noticed a woman sitting in the corner, clutching a thin coat around her shoulders. The woman's hollow eyes reminded Emily of herself not so long ago. She walked over, crouched down, and offered her a blanket and a warm smile. "Thank you," the woman whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Emily stayed for hours that night, talking to people, listening to their stories, and sharing her own. "I've been where you are," she told them. "And I know it's hard, but things can change." When she left the shelter, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: peace. Giving back wasn't just an obligation. It was a privilege, a way to honor the kindness she'd received. Months later, Emily received an unexpected phone call from Daniel. "Emily, I need your help with something important," he said, his tone more serious than usual. "What's going on?" "There's a young man I want you to meet. His name is Liam. He's talented but going through a rough time, and I think you're the perfect person to guide him." Emily hesitated. "Me? Why me?" "Because you understand what it's like to struggle and come out stronger. Liam needs that kind of mentorship." Trusting Daniel's instincts, Emily agreed. When she met Liam, she saw a reflection of her former self. A young man weighed down by failure and doubt. Over coffee, he shared his story of lost opportunities and shattered dreams. "You're not alone," Emily told him, "and you're not defined by your mistakes. Let's figure out how to move forward." She helped Liam revamp his resume, coached him through job interviews, and introduced him to people in her network. Slowly but surely, Liam began to regain his confidence. One day, he called her with excitement bubbling in his voice. "Emily, I got the job. I can't thank you enough." Her chest swelled with pride. "You did this, Liam. I just helped you see what you were capable of." As the years passed, Emily's impact grew. She started a small nonprofit focused on helping people transition out of homelessness and into stable jobs and housing. The organization was a labor of love, and every success story reminded her of her journey. At the launch of her nonprofit's first major event, Daniel stood by her side, watching as she gave a heartfelt speech. I want to thank everyone who believed in me, she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. This organization exists because someone took a chance on me when I had nothing. And now, it's my turn to pay it forward. The applause was deafening. But what meant the most to Emily was the gratitude shining in the eyes of those she'd helped. Years later, on another biting winter night, Emily found herself walking down the same street where it all began. The lamppost was still there, its light casting a warm glow on the sidewalk. She stopped for a moment, reflecting on how far she'd come. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from Liam, now a manager at a tech company, thanking her for believing in him. Emily smiled, her heart full. She had no idea where the old man she'd helped that night had gone, but she liked to believe he was safe and warm somewhere. Thank you, she whispered into the cold night, not knowing if the words would reach him. As she walked away, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Life had given her a second chance, and she would spend every day making sure others got theirs too. The following days unfolded like a cascade of new opportunities and quiet moments of reflection. Emily found herself revisiting memories, marveling at the chain of events that had brought her here. It all started with a simple act of kindness, and now her life was rich with purpose and connections she never imagined possible. One day, while sorting through paperwork at her nonprofit's modest office, Emily's assistant, Mia, poked her head in. "There's someone here to see you," she said, a curious look on her face. "Who is it?" Emily asked, glancing at the clock. She wasn't expecting any meetings today. He didn't say, just asked if you'd spare a moment. Curiosity piqued. Emily nodded. "Send him in." A moment later, a familiar face walked through the door. It was the old man from that winter night so many years ago, though he looked healthier now, his posture more upright and his clothes clean and neatly pressed. "Hello, Emily," he said, his voice steady but warm. Her heart skipped a beat. "It's you," she whispered, standing up from her desk. He smiled. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" She hesitated, trying to find the words. "I never thought I'd see you again. Are you okay? How have you been?" The man nodded, his expression serene. "Better, thanks to you." Emily gestured for him to sit. "You have no idea how much I've thought about that night. It changed everything for me." "And for me," he replied. "That $20 didn't just buy me a meal. It reminded me that people care, even when it feels like the world has turned its back on you." Emily listened intently as the man shared his story. His name was Arthur, and he'd been living on the streets after losing his wife and his home. That night, her act of kindness had sparked something in him, a determination to find his way back. He'd sought help at a shelter the next day, where he was connected to resources that eventually turned his life around. "But what brings you here now?" Emily asked, her voice soft. "I heard about what you've been doing," Arthur said. "Your nonprofit, the people you've helped. It's incredible. I wanted to thank you in person and offer my help." "Your help?" Arthur nodded. "I know what it's like to be at rock bottom. If there's anything I can do, talk to people, share my story, lend a hand, I want to be part of this." Emily felt a lump rise in her throat. "You have no idea how much that means to me, Arthur." "Thank you." Over the following months, Arthur became a vital part of the nonprofit. His story resonated deeply with those they aimed to help, inspiring others to take the first steps toward rebuilding their lives. One day, as Emily and Arthur wrapped up a community outreach event, he turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "You know, it's funny how life works," he said. "What do you mean?" "If you hadn't stopped that night, we wouldn't be standing here. And who knows how many lives would still be in the dark because of it." Emily smiled, a wave of gratitude washing over her. "I guess kindness has a way of rippling out, doesn't it?" Arthur nodded. "It does. And you've created a tidal wave." Years passed, and Emily's nonprofit grew beyond her wildest dreams. What began as a small effort in her local community expanded into a network of shelters, job training programs, and affordable housing initiatives. Emily became a sought-after speaker, sharing her story at conferences and events, always emphasizing the power of small acts of kindness. But despite her growing influence, she never lost touch with the personal connections that mattered most. She continued to visit shelters, sit with those in need, and listen to their stories. One evening, after a particularly long day, Emily returned to her apartment and found a package waiting for her at the door. Inside was a beautifully crafted plaque with a simple inscription, "For the one who turned kindness into a legacy." Emily held it close, tears brimming in her eyes. She didn't know who had sent it, but it didn't matter. The message was clear. What she had started on that cold winter night had grown into something far greater than herself. As she placed the plaque on her bookshelf, she glanced out the window at the bustling city below. Somewhere out there, another act of kindness was unfolding, sparking a new journey for